Whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you are blessed and doing safe. On this 4th of July weekend, if you do celebrate the 4th of July, of course, we already know about Independence Day. I'm aware of course, Frederick Douglass's speech, "What does the 4th of July mean to the Negro?" And some of you may not celebrate it, some of us do. I still say happy Independence Day, happy 4th of July, because African Americans, while we have this is our country, and we have, you said Juneteenth for you. Okay, some people don't even celebrate Juneteenth, but we have played a versatile role in the foundation of the United States of America. And most people who do not know their history don't even know about the uh, the first man who died in the American Revolution was a black man by the name of Crispus Attucks. And Crispus Attucks, or Atticus, I should say, is someone that we rarely hear of in history, but he was the American stevedore of African and Native American descent and rightly regarded as the first person killed in what was called the Boston Massacre. Of course, he was not alone. There have been other black men, James Whipple, for instance. You could all look at him, look at his story. Is it James Whipple? No. Prince Hall, who's the founder of the Prince Hall Freemasons. You also have I don't know why this internet is so goddamn slow. I got an extender out here, so whenever I'm trying to click and go on stuff, it should pop up automatically. I'm sorry. I hate when it does this. I know I started a few minutes early, but America's Black Founding Fathers, yeah. We have books on these gentlemen that you could look like James Lafayette. You also had, I believe that's Lafayette there. Even when Washington crossed the Delaware, this famous photograph, Prince Whipple, that's what it was, Prince Whipple. This famous painting, you see this black man rowing right next to George Washington. Well, he was there when Washington crossed the Delaware River. That was part of that legend. So black people have played a very vital and pivotal role in the foundation of America, whether we agree, whether we celebrate it or not. But I still acknowledge that, and we still acknowledge that. So again, to all, hope you're all doing safe and blessed. And if you do celebrate the 4th of July, happy 4th of July to you. But having said all of that, our topic today, ladies and gentlemen, for Hot Topic Sundays, which is the Random Topic Sundays, which is the hottest live stream here on YouTube. We say, talking about black in name only. And you already know, if you have seen the flyer for today's program, you have an idea of what I'm talking about. So sit back, relax, ladies and gentlemen, as we go in and discuss black in name only. But before we begin, of course, we like to start off with our hit song. Please go ahead and download Gotta Get All Up, which is available on Apple, iTunes, and Spotify. The most streams I get, most people buy, and more money. It helps to support me and supports the channel. I appreciate y'all being here.
Because on the dance floor is where we're going. Show me what you got. You gotta feel the groove. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on the. Right now the party's wasted. There's nothing much to do. But once the groove gets started, tell me, what do you have to lose? Just look into my eyes, girl, as we glide across the room. And what to my surprise now, the beat takes hold of you. Now if you're feeling like I'm feeling, so come on baby, let's start dealing. Time to get this party started. Ain't no time for the broken hearted. When the rhythm takes hold of you, there's only one thing left to do. Cause the beat is really moving. Time to get your body moving. Gotta get on and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, start to feel your body moving. Gotta get on.
All right, everyone. Got to get on up, whoever you are, wherever you are. I hope you are blessed and doing safe. You'll see I'm decked out in red, white, and blue today. Just something common. I wear 4th of July. I wasn't actually going to come on the screen, but I thought it'd be appropriate if you guys saw my face. And yeah, shout out to Gary. I think Gary probably got confused because I usually play that song. I play that song in the intro and outro of the streams. So that's the closing theme and it's the opening and closing theme. So you guys probably thought the show when you came on at this live stream just ended. No, we are just getting started. And so okay, I'm sorry. Oh, All right. I don't know what you guys are up to today, but let's get into it, shall we? So I'm going to go in. This was bothering me all week. Now, all right, I was trying to get a special guest to come in, but he's been in pain right now, not feeling too good. That's okay. Judge Joe is going to stop by, but that's fine. Now, the title of the topic, of course, ladies and gentlemen, is called Black in Name Only. Now, you all probably have seen what this was about earlier this past week. Okay. Sorry, I'm just texting right now. I got an Apple, so when I'm texting someone, of course, they will, when they're texting someone while I'm talking on it, I can see it come across my screen. So I just respond to it. So that's what's taking up. But the topic, of course, is called Black in Name Only. Now, you know this, what this was about. If you watch this, ladies and gentlemen, this was a boy going up against a man. Or I shouldn't even say boy, because a boy is a masculine term. This was feminist power. This was feminine energy against masculine. Someone who is not schooled in law tried to go at somebody who has spent their entire career, their entire life, most of their adult life in the field of law, serving 2 8-year terms as a criminal court judge, a man who went to law school, a man who was also the defender of the city of Memphis, a former prosecutor, and the Honorable Judge Joe Brown, versus Maurice Lamont Spill. I call him Maurice Lamont Shill because he is a shill for the Democratic Party. Now, I'm not going to play the video because I don't want a copyright strike, but I will play the audio that you will be able to hear. Please let me know if you are able to hear it, if you're having any issues with listening to it. But this is what happened, of course, with Mark Lamont Hill and Judge Joe Brown. So you guys take a look and listen to it. And this is on the so-called Black News Channel. All right, hold on.
Welcome back to Black News Tonight. We are here talking once again about the case of Bill Cosby. As you know, he was released to most people's surprise yesterday, walking out of a Pennsylvania state prison.
Can anybody hear?
Because of a very interesting development in his case. And yesterday, many celebrities chimed in on social media. One of TV's most well-known judges, Judge Joe Brown, was one of those people who called out the way that mainstream media had been covering the story. Hours ago, he tweeted, and to be clear, much of this was in response to my wrote, but he said, anyone who was knowledgeable of American law would have expected and predicted the outcome of the Cosby appeal. Mainstream media in Hollywood incite public disorder by lying to the people about the law and encouraging mob rule. Hollywood reacts to Bill Cosby release with shock. Here to discuss his recent comments, joining me now is Judge Joe Brown. Judge, thank you for joining me. Why do you say that mainstream media encourages mob rule?
I've talked to 43 lawyers around the country, 17 judges, and I haven't found one that was shocked by the verdict. Most saw the same thing that I did from day one. This never should have gone to trial. It's a travesty. It's a violation of due process and American law. It is part of this mess that mainstream media is trying to feed into the heads of the citizenry and poison them by saying that their emotions and their feelings are supposed to have paramountcy over what happens within the law.
Now, you heard what the judge said about how mainstream media tries to get people's emotions and to make them paramount in transparency, as opposed to what happens in a court of law. In other words, what he is saying is that you let your emotions get the better of you. And Your emotions dictate what happens, even the laws. And that is not how a court, that is not what happens and takes place in the court. The way that the court works is that a person is presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, and they are entitled to due process. They are entitled to to what's called under the Sixth Amendment, as I went over last Thursday, the right to a fair and speedy trial, the right to have witnesses called in your behalf, the right to have effective assistance of counsel, the right to confront your accuser, and whatever compulsory witnesses they have or any witnesses that support them, you have a right to confront them. The confrontation clause. In this instance, and they didn't talk about it in their decision, the decision by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, they stated that the case was tainted from the beginning, that it was not fair and impartial. Now, they didn't overturn it for that reason, but they only overturned it because of the agreement between Bruce Castor and Bill Cosby and vis-a-vis his attorneys. So let us continue and listening, because Moise Lamont Shield does not get it right.
Well, that's not the way it goes. I get people who never even took what they should have gotten in the 4th and 5th grade get to talking about how somebody gonna disprove what these women accused Dr. Cosby of. And the truth of the matter is, you don't have to. They have to.
If anybody can hear, please
what they
leave
claim
a
is
thumbs
true,
up.
not the other way around. That's American law. I see too much of this. Show up on the courthouse, voice your opinion, and get the courts to yield to what you believe. That's not the way the law works. That's called mob rule, mob justice. And if you want a more egregious exemplar, take what happened to Emmett Till and every other black man that's been lynched in the history of this country because somebody got emotional and decided to suborn the law, go around it, and do what their emotions drove them to do.
I would even go a step add another name to that. Anybody that wants to go Google, and to answer brother's question, I don't know any lawyers out in New Jersey, but I may look through my contacts and see if there is a civil rights attorney you could talk to. But I'm going to put the screen back up, but I want you to look at this first and foremost. Hold on a second. I want you to look at who this individual is. Now, this is another name you can throw in. This is George Steiny Jr. George Steiny Jr. is the youngest person. He has the misfortune of being the youngest person ever convicted and executed in the United States. He was convicted within 10 minutes of a trial as he was accused of murdering 2 little white girls, Betty June Binnicker at age 11 and Mariam Thames at age 7. He was accused of rape, sexual assault, raping them, and beating them to death. It says here that the bodies of Betty June Binnicker and Mariam Thames were found in a ditch on March 23rd, 1944, after failing to return home the night before. The bodies were discovered on the African-American side of Alcaloo. So this was in a small town in Alcaloo, South Carolina. That's where George Steiny was from. And as they passed by the Steiny's property, the girls were last seen riding their bicycles looking for flowers, and as they passed the property, they had asked Steiny and his sister Amy if they knew where to find maypops, a local name for passion flowers. According to Amy, she was with Steiny at the time the police later established for the murders. According to an article reported by the Wire Services on March 24, 1944, and published widely with the mistake of the boy's name preserved, the sheriff announced the arrest of George Junius and stated that the boy confessed and led officers to a hidden piece of iron. The girls suffered blunt force trauma. Reports differed as to what kind of weapon had been used, and according to the medical examiner, those wounds were inflicted by blunt instrument with a round head about the size of a hammer. Both girls' skulls were punctured. The medical examiner reported no evidence of sexual assault to the younger girl, though the genitalia of the older girl was slightly bruised. Both girls' hymens remained intact at the time of the autopsies, which means there was no proof of sexual assault. Nevertheless, ladies and gentlemen, when it went to trial, the jury selection took 1 day. Steining's court-appointed counsel was Charles Plowden, who was a tax commissioner campaigning for local office at the time. He did not challenge the 3 police officers who testified that Steining confessed to the 2 murders. He didn't challenge the prosecution's presentation of 2 different versions of his confession, his alleged confession. In one version, Steining was attacked by the girls after he tried to help one girl who had fallen in the ditch and claimed he killed them in self-defense. And the other version is that he followed the girls attacking Mary Emma and Betty June. There's no written record of Steining's confession. There never was one, and the deputy, only thing that they had was what it was according to a deputy. He was, long story short, you guys know where this is going, but this was a courtroom of over 1,000 whites. The Steining's counsel did not call witnesses, did not cross-examine witnesses, and offered no little defense. The whole trial lasted 2.5 hours. So this was essentially, the court allowed the discussion of the possibility of rape due to the bruising on Binniker's genitalia, although there was no evidence of it. You guys know where this went. It took the jury only 10 minutes to find George Steining Jr. guilty. And while the NAACP and his family, the churches asked for clemency, the governor at that time, Alan Johnson, he declined to do so. They reopened. He was executed on June 16, 1944. When the lethal electricity was applied, the mask covering slipped off, revealing tears streaming down his face. He was buried in an unmarked grave in Crowley. Now, long story short, his conviction eventually was overturned in what is called a coram nobis. And it's the writ of coram nobis is a legal order allowing a court to correct its original judgment upon discovery of a fundamental error that did not appear in the records of the original judgment's proceedings and would have prevented the judgment from being pronounced. This was done posthumously, and they vacated the conviction in 2014. Circuit Judge Carmen Mullen ruled that he had not received a fair trial as he had not effectively defended, and his Sixth Amendment rights had been violated. The ruling was a rare use of this legal remedy. Now, what's interesting is that the family members of those 2 girls, they actually were opposed at that ruling. These white folks, they didn't care that he was 14. They didn't care that he was a 14-year-old boy. Oh, they say, well, we know it was controversial. Just read. I know you probably can't see because it's small. But just read. I'm reading this to you. They said they acknowledged that Steining's execution at the age of 14 is controversial, but they never doubted his guilt. Bickner's niece claims she and her family have extensively researched the case and argue that people who just read articles in the newspaper don't know the truth. She alleges that in the early 1990s, a police officer who had arrested Steining had contacted her and said, "Don't you ever believe that boy didn't kill your aunt." These family members contend that the claims of a deathbed confession from an individual confessing to the girls' murders have never been substantiated. Well, the reason why they were never substantiated is because you guys didn't do the fucking research. This is what happened to could have happened to Bill Cosby 60 years ago, 70 years ago. A 14-year-old not even being open to the possibility that a mistake could be made. You defend the conviction. There's more. There are other examples that, and I'm only doing this because I want to keep playing the video. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I'm doing this for the purposes of dealing with this twit, Mark Lamont Hill, because he has absolutely, he brought a knife to a gunfight. And that was his problem. He brought a knife to a gunfight. When you come with Judge Joe Brown, especially when you're talking about the law, you better bring a whole library book. You better be prepared, like you at the OK Corral. We're going to finish playing the audio.
So that is the way
there's about 16 minutes of this.
Law separates us from the animals, and we can't have this disregard of the law. I want to commend this Howard Dean for being forthright enough to
Phylicia
speak
Rashad.
out on what the reality is. And I would suggest that they need to strengthen the breadth requirements at Howard University so I don't see such ignorance coming out of this profoundly historic Black university. My father went there way back in the 40s.
Well, Judge, there's two things going on at once, though, Judge,
that I have heard come out of that place lately. And if
so, Judge, I think there's two things happening at once.
Justice, they are too.
So, Judge, I think there's two things happening at once here. And I think, on the one hand, many of us are legitimately aware, and myself included, that the criminal legal system doesn't give equal outcomes to everybody, that Black folk catch the worst end of this, that Black men, when it comes to incarceration, get the absolute worst end of this. And the Bill Cosby case is an example of a prosecutor who was dishonest. Bill Cosby, absolutely, if he's told that you won't be prosecuted for giving this deposition and then he gets prosecuted, that is a violation of his rights and that is a violation of due process.
Of course it is.
On the other hand,
due process.
but on the, right. But hold on, let me finish this point.
Going forward should be disciplined.
So there's that, but then there's the other question that people. So then there's this other question that people, though, have, Judge, which is a legal question. Which is not a legal question. I think those two things, to some extent, are getting mixed up. And the non-legal question is about whether or not Bill Cosby actually did harm. Legally, you can say he's not guilty because the not guilty stands.
He didn't do anything. American law, there is an absolute presumption of innocence until you are proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt using due process of law. If there was no due process of law, that presumption of innocence does not remove itself, and there is no valid conviction. If there is no valid conviction, that presumption of innocence stands as a rock.
Just to stop right there, what the judge is saying is absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. When that presumption of innocence is found to have been removed, obviously via conviction, and they find that that conviction was tainted, that due process was violated, that is not a technicality. And of course, these fools have been throwing this around. I know what I'm talking about because I did 3 years in law school myself. I did 3 years in law school. I passed the bar on the first try in Louisiana. The hardest bar exam in the country. The longest, at least. So it is not a technicality that Bill Cosby due process rights were found to be violated. That's not a technicality. If there is no due process, then that means that the whole Constitution needs to be thrown out, because when you have lynch mobs and social justice warriors who don't care about evidence but care about emotions, then what you will have is essentially the Salem witch trial starting over again. You will have people being executed based off of what someone thinks, not what they know and what they can prove. And our founding fathers, the founding fathers of this country, did not want that. They had just dealt with a monarch, and they created the Bill of Rights for a reason. Now, of course, we know that at that time, it didn't apply to black people. Black people were not considered human beings, per se. They did not have the same rights as whites. We all know that. But nevertheless, it applies to us now. And Moise Lamont Hill and others are doing this so that they can push an agenda. Moise Lamont Spill, I should say, rather. And let's be real, Mark Lamont Hill is not a nigga that, honestly, any of us look up to. What has he accomplished? He's not somebody that, he is not somebody that we espouse our young boys to look up to. He's not somebody, he's not a household name that he's the first we think of. Roland Martin might be Swollen Martin might be the first we may think of before we think of Mark Lamont Hill. You got somebody young black boys are espousing to be. And it's saying a lot if you are ahead of Rolly. Bit. But let's continue. I want to finish playing this. I'm not going to interrupt.
Yes. It is to keep the government from acting in a dishonest fashion and using its powers for persecution. So Dr. Cosby
so I think we're on the same page with that.
Guilty through due process. He hasn't done anything. So under American law, the accusations are just that. They carry no weight other than accusations, and they must be proven using due process beyond a reasonable doubt. If they have not been, then they are essentially worthless, just so much talk.
So I think we're on the same page. So I think we're on the same page with regard to the law. I think part of the challenge, and I sent out a tweet last night that you responded to. I'm going to pull it up. It says, I said, Bill Cosby is not innocent. He has not been exonerated. His release means that Cosby, a sexual predator, was incarcerated within a criminal legal system that has as little regard for its own rules and procedures as does Cosby for his victim.
You keep calling this man a sexual predator when his conviction was overturned. When your conviction is overturned, you are restored back to being innocent until proven guilty. He is innocent in the eyes of the law. He is not a sexual predator. Doesn't matter what you call him or what you want. In the eyes of the law, he is innocent. He was exonerated. I've heard these different television show judges and so forth, like the woman from Hot Topics and a few other attorneys. I watched BNC earlier, and they had the head of the National Bar Association, where she was taking the side, of course, of the victims, it appeared, and they had Monique Presley on. And that woman, Yogit Tidwell, who's an attorney out in Dallas, I remember when she threw shade at Cosby. You know, these niggas are laughable. It's upset. At least Monique Presley stood on code with it. And I know she's been a lackey for the Democrats. She's been on Roly Poly's show. But she at least handled her job as a professional when it came to this case. I'm going to keep, I don't want to keep I don't want to make this show over an hour and 30 minutes or anything like that. But I got to keep interrupting because I want you guys to listen to this and listen to what these fools do. And what they're saying. He's calling him a sexual predator. And he hasn't even been convicted. Roman Polanski is a sexual predator. You know why Roman Polanski is a sexual predator? Because he pled guilty. He pled guilty. And he was allowed to flee the country.
And you responded, you said,
he hasn't had any, is a baseless accusation. It has no weight.
So under the law, I think we're on the same page again. But part of the problem,
in the fourth and fifth grade, not law school. American law means when somebody makes an accusation, that's all it is. It has no weight. If there's probable cause, you have somebody answer the complaint. But if you cannot find someone guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, they have done nothing. They walk out of there with their presumption of innocence intact. How clear can that be? There is nothing to answer.
I think that
he had a right to remain.
I think that part is clear. No, I think that part is clear, Judge. Let me just move the conversation forward.
Proving his guilt. It did not. So he stands.
Right. So I guess right. So what I want to do is just move the conversation up a little bit. I think you and I agree that legally he's not guilty, that legally he doesn't have any burden of proof. The state does, and it hasn't met that. Legally, his rights were violated. We're on the same page about that. I'm saying the legal question to me is rock solid. But I think what was happening yesterday was people were conflating those two things. They were acting as if because the state didn't meet its burden and because he was released based on the fact that he didn't get due process, or his due process rights were violated, that was somehow proof of the belief that many people had that Cosby was actually not just legally not guilty, but actually didn't do anything at the moral and ethical level. And hold on 1 second. I want to place.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, no, hold on. Let me place the question to you. So I guess what I'm saying is, can we hold space for two ideas at the same time? Can someone under the eyes of the law be completely not guilty, and at the same time, can we have a public conversation? Because I know you talk about culture, you talk about our community, you talk about values. Can we also talk about the fact that someone can be doing great harm and even be a predator at the same time that legally they're all the things you just said?
No. Because the law presumes them innocent until you prove them guilty. It is a specious thing. That's part of this new paradigm where everybody gets a trophy, a participation ribbon. Nobody's feelings get hurt. Freedom of speech gets restricted if somebody feels uncomfortable or undelighted by what is being said. That's not our reality.
So let me ask you a question. When George Zimmerman killed Trayvon Martin and the jury found him not guilty, right? Do you feel that the black community should not have continued to express outrage and call George Zimmerman the killer because under the law he was innocent?
They should.
Now, you see what he does. He conflates a chicken McNugget to a prime rib. Conflating two different things. George Zimmerman admitted to killing Trayvon Martin. Bill Cosby never admitted to drugging any woman. I don't care what anybody says. I put up I don't know if I want to keep going back, but I've put up the deposition where he was asked, if you read it in its entirety. And in its entirety, he stated emphatically when he was asked about the Quaaludes. And Quaaludes, by the way, were not the drugs that were involved with the Andrea Constand matter. Quaaludes were the drugs back in the 70s that people took when they mellowed out after getting high off cocaine. They were called disco biscuits. Just like most of those comedians back then, celebrities like Richard Pryor, it was known he did cocaine. He had a whole soup bowl, if you read Paul Mooney's autobiography, of cocaine right on his table in his den. He would be snorting it. And sometimes he would have the girls come over, the celebrities like Miles Davis and others come over, and they would do cocaine. Then they go upstairs, he and his girls, and they go smash. You did it in Studio 54. If you saw the documentary on Studio 54, A&E did, I think about 2-3 years ago, they talked about how that time when on the disco floor and Studio 54, you go, you do drugs, you do cocaine, you can have sex. It was sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And being who he was, Bill Cosby, I'm pretty damn sure he didn't have to drug any woman to get them in bed. Now, that is not to say that women cannot be raped because someone is a celebrity. That doesn't mean that at all. I would not say that because that has happened in the past. We know of celebrities that, and not just celebrities, but athletes as well, who have stood charges. Some have been obviously being accused and convicted in court, like Darren Sharper, Kellen Winslow. I mean, he fell off the rails, though. So, I mean, he's had people around him. I'm trying to find that famous picture, but Boyce Lamont Hill, yeah, you're right, a sad little man. Sad little half a man. I wouldn't even call him a man. Guys, if you notice, and I wanted to put this on Twitter and Periscope, but I've been suspended, and I'll talk about that in a minute because I was defending Mr. Cosby. But I want to finish the audio. And I want you to hear the rest of it.
Express outrage with themselves for lacking such political influence in the selection of the district attorney or in the even weight assigned to them. See, the rules are the same. But from my perspective, I think of all the black folk that have called me over the last 35 of jury service, all of the black folk that voted a handout where you've got a racist idiot on that handout for judge and they don't even pay attention to who's on the ballot. I think of all of the black folk who don't go out and vote for sheriff or effectively for mayor or for the district attorney and complain about it. See, when you have an opportunity to do something about it, do it. And see, most of the people that are off in the penitentiaries are not in there for playing Robin Hood. They rob from their neighbors, burglarize their neighbors, kill their neighbors, rape their neighbors, sold poison to their neighbors. And the other thing is, it's not guns. It's not any excuse. It's we have got a lack of manhood and masculinity in our neighborhoods. See, masculinity is the imposition of a set of behavioral standards on a boy. So when the boy grows into a man, he has some things he has to do that he cannot get away with, that he is compelled to look to, making where he lives a better, safer, more secure place filled with economic prosperity, sense of purpose, morality, and ethics. He is a man of public peace, dignity, and order, who is a man of peace, who can be a brave and courageous man when necessary. See, we have to start taking
Judge, let me pause you for a minute.
back.
We're going to take a Judge. I want to hear more about that, Judge. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to take a quick break and bring you right back. I'm going to push you on some of those things as well. Stay with me. We got more Black News Tonight coming up right after this. Welcome back to Black News Tonight. We're talking Bill Cosby in the aftermath of his case. I'm here with Judge Joe Brown. Judge, again, early in the conversation, we sort of stipulated to the legal parts of this, and we both agree that everyone deserves the right to due process, and no one should be sitting in prison or jail for something that they either didn't do or if their rights are violated, or both. But you've also raised this interesting question that I think is worth unpacking a bit, and that's about ethics and morality within the Black community and holding each other accountable and talking about manhood and masculinity. If we, again, assuming Bill Cosby doesn't take the legal stuff off the table, if we look at the depositions, the very thing that got him ultimately, the thing that ultimately got him locked up, and those depositions, and he's talking about the various women he had sex with giving them alcohol and pills, whether it's Quaaludes or Benadryl. You look at the dozens of women who come forward and accuse him. Is there room to say, look, Bill Cosby can come home because the prosecutor was wrong, but Bill Cosby also has to be accountable for what he represents and for acts of predator-like behavior?
What about these women being accountable for their own behavior? They were groupies. Well, sex, drugs, rock and roll, sex, drugs, rap, sex, drugs, baseball, football, basketball, movies, television. See,
yeah, but not talking about Bill Cosby. I'm saying
we forgot what that term meant. Sex, drugs, rock and roll. The bimbos come to the party, they hang out, they get drunk, they snort lines of blow, and they have a good time They used the hall closets to give head, the bathrooms to get down, and you go.
I wonder if Judge did any of this with any groupies. I gotta ask him. But what he's saying essentially is that this is what they did in the 70s. That was a different culture, a different time and era, and people want to judge Dr. Cosby on this. I'm gonna try not to interrupt the rest of the show because I have a lot to get into. More we got to get into, but I'm playing and dissecting what the judge says and all of the tweets and so forth. Everybody's been on Judge's side for the most part. You all, especially when you want new media, supporting black media, you want to hear what's going on. You want the truth. Now, let me stop this video for a second, but this is the picture I wanted to see when I mentioned that Bill Cosby, about Bill Cosby. You see this? Now, of course, I don't know if these are the same women that are in this photo. But Bill Cosby, obviously, he's signing an autograph. And these women are all hugged up, leaning towards him. All over him. Now, we want to say if Bill Cosby did was immoral for cheating on his wife. I can see that. I certainly, you know what? Every brother needs a Camille Cosby. Let me we're going to shout out Mrs. Cosby. Because she's been a true soldier throughout this whole thing. She stands by her man. This is her husband of over 57 years. She has continued to stand by him expeditiously, indubitably, and without second guess, without second thoughts. They have children together. They have grandchildren. They lost 2 children. So I want to salute. Y'all give it up. I want y'all to put the applause in the chat. Y'all got to give it up for this woman. This beautiful black queen. This is the wife you want. In your worst times, if she's beside you, that's your queen. This is a queen, guys. This is how you do it. She was on code. We love this woman. Dr. Cosby. That's what you want. That's black love. Right there. They lost 2 children. Their son was murdered, Enos Cosby, and then Ensa died in February of 2018 before the trial started. So she went through a lot. And I'm sure, I don't know what their marriage is like because that's their business, but I'm sure she was aware of his transgressions, but obviously she forgave him. What's the difference between Frank Sinatra and Bill Cosby with women? I mean, Frank Sinatra, his own wife, I read, she said that she wrote in her autobiography that she knew Frank attracted women and she never got mad because she knew who he was. He's Frank Sinatra. Women throw themselves at guys like these. Guys like this, the groupies are going to come. But Mrs. Cosby is a rider. In the truest definition. In the truest definition, Mrs. Cosby is a rider. So shout out to her. Big ups to her. But before Ensa passed, she even said that she didn't like what was going on with her father. But I'm gonna finish the
When to
audio.
get your coat off of the bed and they're laying on top of it doing somebody. See, that's what that's about. So,
Yeah, but
let's not
it
get
has to be
sanctimonious
consensual,
25,
though.
30, 40, 50 years after something was in big time style. When this stuff started out, the sexual revolution was going on. And a lot of women got into it deeply.
Okay, so there's two things you raised. But first, let's talk about Bill Cosby. We can talk about the women, but let's talk about Bill Cosby. Let's talk about Bill Cosby for a second, because that's the person we're talking about. My question was, is there room to what did he do? Well, according to the deposition, he gave women pills, and in one deposition, he specifically said he didn't know whether.
Force it down their throat,
let me finish.
He didn't take advantage of them. Look at that interview Whoopi Goldberg did with that model Johnson. Whoopi got all. So wait a minute. You're trying to tell me that when he found out you were high, he called a cab, took the elevator down with you, put you in the cab, paid your fare, tipped the man, and sent you home because you were high? So what did he do?
So in one deposition, Judge, in one deposition specifically, when he was asked the question, was he sure that the
See, that's another mistake that Mark makes in the mainstream media. The deposition was took place several times. It's taken over a year, 2005 and in 2006. Cosby took it on different dates, and if you look at the March 28, 2006 deposition, Bill Cosby emphatically stated, when asked if you ever gave any of these pills to these women involuntarily, he said, no, this is not a crime.
Woman was sober enough to consent. He said, I don't know. But there's a bigger question here: is if someone willingly takes pills and becomes high and drunk, can they legally consent?
Sometimes you can. Used to be you could. They had a change in there back 25 years ago when they were saying, no, you can't. But before that, basically you could. That's why they told you.
So, but we're talking about the law. So then, Judge, again, since you're saying we should appeal to the law, if the law says that you can't be
intoxication, where you did something to them they didn't consent to. See, that's when that law started changing from you got yourself drunk, you're responsible to know the bartender's responsible because he lets you get drunk. That's when that change started coming
Bill
about.
Cosby's admitting to giving women alcohol and pills for the purpose of having sex. And if by the law you can't consent if you're drunk or high,
go out to dinner or you have a party or something. So
but that's not the same.
Taking advantage of because they do something they would have done anyway. A whole lot of them I knew back in the years would take drugs, particularly wild. They did that a lot. I had a lot of female clients I had to get out of messes because they had a fondness for quaaludes. It's not cool, but
it's okay to take.
Don't you bear any responsibility for this, especially if you keep going back?
So, Judge, let me. I want to lay this out plainly.
Let me out. He's speechless. He is speechless.
And I'll give you a chance to respond. I'll even give you the last word. If you give someone drugs and alcohol, even if they want to take the drugs and alcohol, if they get to a point where they are inebriated, where they are high or drunk, you cannot have sex with them. It is not sex. It becomes rape. And even
that's only the law in certain states. That's only the law in certain states. It's not for every state. And it goes into the same philosophy. It goes into the same thing. I didn't know I was going to get that drunk, so it ain't my fault. I got a DUI and kill somebody. How you think that's going to flow?
Right, but the difference is
plus you have people on the East Coast who want a new category of
responsibility not to get into the car.
Rape by
the drunk person does not have a responsibility.
In other words, you take the woman out,
the responsibility.
And you decide to have a good meal, linen, candlelight, wine, dine. You go for a walk in the park, my place or yours. Get over there, kissy, kissy, poo, seduction, clothes come off. Everybody has a good time. This crowd wants that to be called felony
isn't having a
rape
good
by
time. One person's
seduction.
being assaulted. Right, but what I'm saying, Judge,
Nobody,
and I got to run.
that's the point. He never admitted to what he did, was accused of, which is
how many people in your court admitted to what they did
all
that
he
were
did
guilty?
was they asked for it. I supplied it. They wanted it.
Okay,
That's like put some candles on and some incense when we do it.
And then this
Let's
asshole
go
said
out.
this is flat out rape at this point. Doesn't even know. Judge has not said up here and said that this was rape, that he condoned rape. Flat out.
Now
No,
a fine meal. Some
Now he
Pinot
wants to
Noir,
play the
some
victim.
Cabernet Sauvignon
Giving
to
somebody
go with the prime rib and the lobster. And then we, you know, after we leave the 5-star restaurant, we got a nice walk in the park.
This honestly is, with all due respect, is the most disturbing interview I've ever had in my life.
No, but see, you're into this thing where everybody's got to be protected. This society does not work when the society's obligation is to protect somebody from being stupid. You protect somebody's rights
to protect somebody from being
to
raped. But we got to go,
their
Judge Joe Brown. We can have a conversation,
but you can't protect them from themselves.
Way past commercial
Just
break.
like you can't protect somebody from liability for killing someone in a fatal DUI because the bartender didn't stop serving them when they kept asking.
Unfortunately, I got to run with way past commercial break. I know you understand that. Thank you for joining the show. Let us know what you're thinking. Hit us up on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at BNC News. Visit the website, bnc.tv.
Now,
Coming up next.
Okay, and y'all should see the comments when Lamoy said, "I'll even give you the last word." Judge Joe Brown had to hold back from laughing. He set this boy up for slaughter. Hill was trying to push the company line, and Judge Joe wasn't having it. Just listening to Judge Joe Brown is so refreshing. He's truly an unapologetic black man that separates the men from the boys. No excuses. He's right about that. This boy, Mark, is a brainwashed tool of the left. He doesn't even think about what he's saying. He's just repeating what they've taught him. Absolutely. He certainly got their penis up his ass. His hand up his ass. Yeah, either way. Moist Lamont Shill. Yes, and tomorrow is Judge Joe Brown's birthday. Happy birthday to the judge. But I called this black in name only because if you look at the Black News Channel's Wikipedia page here, BNC Truth, we know it's not. It's basically, it is interesting. We think it's a far left organization, which it probably is. J.C. Watts is the chairman of Student Affairs, and apparently he planned to watch. He helped launch BNC News. Now, when it came out, and I saw that he was behind it, I was applauding it because I wanted to see what it would be about, what they would discuss, and I support black businesses. I support obviously having our own news channel. However, we always got to see who controls it and what. And honestly, a lot of people thought J.C. Watts was going to being that he was a Republican, was going to push this far-right agenda, but it's actually left. J.C. Watts is a former congressman, and he's a Republican. And when you look here, the investor of Black News Channel, it's headquartered out of Tallahassee, Florida. It is major investor is Shahid Khan. Shahid Khan is the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. His son is Tony Khan, who is the creator of All Elite Wrestling. His net worth is $8.1 billion as of July of 2021. Khan is also, I remember he's a Republican. He endorsed Donald Trump back in the 2016 election. He was among several of the NFL owners that supported Donald Trump. And it was revealed that they were the lead investors behind All Elite Wrestling. And if you watch wrestling and so forth, which I do, they've been around since January of 2019. Cody Rhodes and so forth. Those guys are the officials in that organization, in that company. But this is interesting to read when you look at it. Just who founds what, and you understand who is controlling the dollars. So when we look at Black News Channel, it's not surprised that this organization has talking heads and puppets. This Robert John Brilliant is a cable television manager and executive. He's the chief executive officer of Black News Channel. Now, I don't know if he has some type of friendship with your J.C. Watts, perhaps, but he announced plans to start the Black Television News Channel back in 2003. It didn't work, so now he's the chief executive officer of BNC. That's right, Buck Broken News Network. That's exactly it. I got 34. We got about 37 people here, man. But yeah, the judge played no games, and so this is a Black news channel only in name, but by its function and especially how they attacked an elder in our community, you can see that it is only Black in name, not in substance. Now, I told you all, well, they just started Bossa Queenie, and you probably have not heard of them because they're not that very big. They only have about only on Comcast, Xfinity, and Charter Spectrum. They're on DirecTV and Dish Network, but that's about it. They've only been in existence for about 16 months. So back in February of 2020 is when they first launched. So just getting off the ground with this one. I wish, though, and I would say this now, Bill Cosby, all the monies he gave to historically Black colleges and universities, your Howard University, and we're going to talk about them now in a second, and these other Black colleges and universities outside of Howard who have rescinded his awards, a la Spelman, and I don't know if Morehouse did the same thing, but I know Spelman, he gave $20 million to, they took his name off. Temple University, which is not a HBCU, but they took his name off and removed his name. They have never given all the monies back. So if you're going to say you stand with victims and that Cosby got passed because he was used his money and had all these lawyers, remember something. Bill Cosby did 3 years in prison. So his money would have kept him out of prison if it meant anything, but obviously it did not. And as I stated earlier, I got suspended from Twitter over this very thing, going back and forth. I guess we'll make this person special. But this is the type of crap and bullshit that we deal with. Of course, you see I follow Bill Cosby. Due process is not a technicality. It isn't. The media can't silence the truth. Moist Lamont Spill, I can't believe D-Ray liked it. Called him, he'd gone at Dr. Boyce Watkins. And Dr. Boyce even said watching at Judge Joe Brown debate Mark Lamont Hill is kind of like watching Sha'Carri Richardson wrestle. So Judge, and so Hill didn't like that. He called him a failed academic. You are a failed TV personality. You are a wealth coach, but went bankrupt. You made the worst rap song ever. You've never sold more than 100 copies of a book. You're terrible at everything. Instead of obsessing about move, focus on your next L. Ooh, somebody feels bad. My man Dwan B, judge served you up cold. See, I got suspended over bullshit. And I'll share with you what I did because I went back and forth with the Les. I got a lot of likes from this. Look at this, 155 likes to 41 retweets. And I can't, they won't even let me comment, but I'm trying to, but this is the BS that Twitter did. So this Audrey Lords Fro, let's look at her because she decided to go on Looks and talk about me. And she doesn't have that many followers, but she's a member of the LGBTQ community. Oh, I'm going to get her. She said, it'd be the ones with hairlines like this who worship the misogynist celebs of the world. They hate women because they are frequently ignored by women because they are clearly creeps, and it shows. Yes, and it's ones with large oversized foreheads like yours who you'd think would have brains but are really empty. Go somewhere else, Les. We know you hate men because no man wants you. She says, I'm an LGBTQ and I guarantee that I'll still get more attention from men than you get from women. I know you're probably upset because you're younger than 40 and look like George Jefferson. And of course I responded in kind. That's because the men looking at you don't know whether or not to get your autograph thinking you played linebacker for the Chicago Bears. Sit on that rainbow, mister. And so she went off on me. And punk ass Twitter, I said some more to say, but punk ass Twitter decided to suspend me for a week. But you see, this is a type of thing. Well, she says the virgin is cricket. All you're doing is revealing how fragile and insecure you are. Go play your games, George. And I said, go and lick some clams, Khalil Mack. She had the nerve to talk about my picture, but y'all look at this forehead of Rudolph the Red-Clit Lesbo here. I mean, you try to be a man, but your shape up is, and talk about linings, your shape up is not that good either. That shape up is not good. Punk ass YouTube. So you see how they protect theirs, and yeah, that's her during her night feeding. But yeah, guys, this is the type of stuff we go through. And especially we're talking about going for truth. And so you have a lot of these trolls trending, but you have trolls like that who keep spreading misinformation. And we're speaking of misinformation, let us look at something I want to talk about is what our sister, I got to shout out another queen. And I'm a huge fan of hers. And I got, oh, let me show you what else. I quoted Miss Stephanie Mills in this pic. I have always been a fan of Pretty Mill One. This makes my day because Stephanie Mills tweeted, I love you, Phylicia Rashad. If it's true that Howard University wants to terminate her position because they feel her comments about Mr. Cosby were insensitive, then they should give back the millions of dollars that he donated to the university. And you have these trolls. He said he never gave money to Howard U. I know that's bullshit. I know that's BS because Bill Cosby gave over $100 million to HBCUs. Now, whether he gave, as to how much he gave and what he gave, I don't know. She's on the verge of RoboCop. Yeah, fuck that, Les. But y'all gotta go to Twitter if you want to support me. Go to Twitter and follow me. Y'all see my username gboot2786 or at GavinRich2786 right there where the mouse is. Follow me. Follow me. That's the best thing you can do. And tell Twitter to go fuck themselves. I didn't want to do that on a Sunday, but it pisses me off when other groups of people can make their point across and talk about you, bully you. I got suspended for hate speech, but it's okay for them to do it to you. That's the fallacy of the left. It's not me endorsing right wing or anything like that, but that's the fallacy. And they're trying to say Bill Cosby didn't give money to Howard. I don't believe that. Because then we have the follow-up tweet. Bill Cosby, yeah, again, Queen, and you saw too when I had that picture with Flojo. They were coming at Flojo yesterday. Some white supremacist was going at Queen Flojo, who is no longer here, accusing her of being a drug addict. I didn't like that either. That she died from a drug overdose. And I had this one mammy who said, when I said I was a fan of Miss Stephanie Mills, she says, "I bet it do." Who's this? Gohan fan account. Young cock of thought. So I replied in kind. Looks like you didn't do well in your grammar class. She didn't. And even brother Al Lanier, shout out to him. Al even said, I guess their memo will be called "Me Right Good" one day. Yeah, fuck them two bitches. That woman who came at me, that Les, is the Humphreys 210. And it's not me being misogynist or anything. It's freedom of speech, baby. That white woman getting that, yeah, yeah, she getting that nice caramel, them caramel almonds. I can't. This is the level of ignorance you got here on. Well, I don't bother with them, but I stand by what I said. I don't care if you don't like it. Get the hell out. Get out. I made her feel mad. You have a booty chin, but that you know how old that was. You know, if you're gonna insult me, you got to at least be funny and come up with something creative. I've heard this, me having a booty chin. You know how old I'm? 35. Okay, that was in the 90s when I was in elementary school. And she left in anger. I think I have this girl's name too. I saw it on the bathroom wall at the Shell gas station. Oh, I could go worse. I can do worse. You want it to be big? I'm gonna make you big. And I try not to do stuff like that, but that really just set me the level of ignorance we got to do. And you never win. You know what? You never win with people on Twitter because they think they have the answers and know everything. Well, I might have a booty chin, but I know I can spell. Her hook, her hooked on phonics, Bossa Queenie. She didn't do that good in grammar class. I will not worry about jawbone. But let us get to Queen Phylicia because I want to talk about Queen Phylicia. And Miss Rashad, of course, you know, there are people that are calling for her to be fired, alumni. And Howard University put out an ad, put this out, a statement about Dean Rashad. She says, do y'all see Nicole on the right? Survivors of sexual assault. Now, of course, you all know that Miss Rashad was ecstatic over the overturning of Bill Cosby's conviction. She wrote, and I want to put, what? I can't believe it's not even here. But she wrote, finally, oh man, why is this? Where is this? Where is this tweet? But she tweeted finally an injustice. Okay, we'll go, but let's read this. This is a statement from Howard. You all know what she tweeted. I'm going to go and find it. But survivors of sexual assault will always be our priority. While Dean Rashad has acknowledged in her follow-up tweet that victims must be heard and believed, her initial tweet lacks sensitivity towards survivors of sexual assault. Personal positions of university leadership do not reflect Howard University's policies. We will continue to advocate for survivors fully and support their right to be heard. Howard will stand with survivors and challenge systems that would deny them justice. We have full confidence that our faculty and school leadership will live up to this sacred commitment. What about the right of due process, Howard? I am in no way, shape, or form saying that alleged victims don't have a right to come forward and speak their truth if it is true, but that is the purpose of due process. That is the purpose of equal protection under the law. That is the purpose of a criminal justice system. You are innocent until proven guilty when the evidence is heard before a jury of your peers. And that evidence is heard. You have not put out anything. There has not been one shred of evidence, physical evidence, that showed Mr. Cosby was guilty of anything. And so all you're doing, and Howard University has a law school. Howard University, this is the same Howard University law school that graduated the likes of Thurgood Marshall, that graduated, had the dean was Charles Houston, the man who destroyed Jim Crow. That was his nickname. Throwing Miss Rashad under the bus for freedom of speech. What did you have to apologize for, Queen? I told you not to apologize. She said, this week I tweeted a statement that caused so much hurt in so many people, both broadly and inside the Howard community. She supposedly sent an email out. She's the Dean of Fine Arts. And she apologized for those that she have hurt. I have since removed the upsetting tweet. She had nothing to apologize for. You have freedom of speech. And now I want to share this because Dr. Cosby's responded. Dr. Cosby responded. And he supposedly launching a tirade. He wrote, he lashed out. It says here, if anyone thought a now free Bill Cosby was going to lay low for a bit after having his rape conviction, and this is another mistake, guys. He was not convicted of rape, but it's Yahoo News. What do you expect? The much accused actor, once known as America's Dad, chose America's Independence Day to prove them wrong. In a somewhat confusing scattered statement today, Cosby lashed out at Howard University's rebuke of his former on-air spouse and the mainstream media. He also decried the bloody attempted coup at the Capitol earlier this year. It was not a good look, to put it mildly, for the 83-year-old once labeled a sexually violent predator. Well, he's been in jail for prison for over 3 years. How the fuck you think he would feel? Dominic Patton. I could tell he's moist. Howard University, you must support one's freedom of speech. Ms. Rashad, which is taught or supposed to be taught every day at that renowned law school which resides on your campus. The statement declared, speaking of the fictional Claire Huxtable's real-life assertion of support for Cosby released on June 30th. She's always supported Bill Cosby. That's another thing. They hired her earlier this past year. They knew that she supported Cosby. She said it before, back in 2014. Calling it again a technicality after serving over 2 years. It was not a technicality. This sick mainstream media are the insurrectionists who stormed the Capitol. Those same media insurrectionists are trying to demolish the Constitution of these United States of America on this Independence Day. The statement put out by Cosby's longtime spokesman, Andrew Wyatt. No technicality. It's a violation of one's rights, and we the people stand in support of Miss Phylicia Rashad. I bet, and this is another thing, I am willing to bet that these same people who are coming at Phylicia Rashad are the same ones that voted for Joe Biden, although Joe Biden had tons of accusations leveled against him. I got to ask you all, before I continue, to please hit that Cash App. Hit the Cash App if you can. The Cash App is at the bottom, Gavin Richard Esquire, Gavin Richard Esquire. You see it in the tagline, or you can hit me up at Zeal, 504-289-4002. Within hours, Rashad tweeted that this is the tweet that she had originally made. She stated, finally, I had it right here. The remarks that she made on July 2nd. Finally, a terrible wrong is being righted. A miscarriage of justice is corrected. She has always stood by Bill Cosby. That's the thing. They knew what they were getting into. Freedom of speech, everybody's supposed to have freedom of speech, but apparently if it's not what you think, if it's not what others want, if it's not on line with the go along, get along, as Brother Kwame Brown said, then it's hate speech. Okay, apparently Vicky Dillard is going on. Somebody just tweeted me that Mark Lamont Hill, someone had a welcome home Bill Cosby party in Atlanta, out in Atlanta on Piedmont at the A Restaurant Lounge. I'm looking at. They said, "Fuck all of y'all." Oh, forget. Well, there's a reason why Alfonso Ribeiro wasn't there when she came on the set for the reunion. He said himself, "The bit is crazy." The victims must be heard and believed. No, the victims have to come forward in a court of law. That's how it goes. And no, they didn't want Cosby to get out, Clay. They didn't want him to get out. The goal was to have him die in prison. That's why when COVID was going around, he did not qualify as a sexual, because he was labeled as a sexual predator. He did not qualify for early release. Although they allowed, in New York, they allowed the damn capo regime for the Bonanno crime family out on early release. You know what you have to do to be a capo in the mafia? You know what you have to do to be a made man? You got to kill somebody. And he's also telling this lie that Cosby, 60 women claim that Cosby drugged and assaulted them over the decades with a cocktail of pills and alcohol. That is not the case. Some women have stated that he didn't give them any drugs and alcohol. Some women stated he bumped against my breast inappropriately, or he touched me inappropriately. Lou Ferrigno's wife, if you look at Drew Story News's, our brother Drew, if you look at his version of the documentary, y'all can hear the rain in the back. He stated that Lou Ferrigno's wife only stated that Bill Cosby tried to kiss her, and this was back when she worked as a play bunny at the Playboy Mansion. Most of these, so I called this, y'all could see Howard University. This is their Twitter handle, and Howard has been called out for what they've been doing, what they're trying to do. This is their Twitter handle, Howard University. Most people don't realize that a good number of HBCUs were founded in some way, shape, or form by whites, and Howard University is no exception. So the oldest HBCU in America is Cheney University. I said Cheney, my God. Cheney University in 1837. And it was founded by a Quaker who, upon his death, he released monies so that it could be released to help and create educational programs for Africans. Blue, white, and red. This is Howard University. The founder of Howard University, it was named after, was this guy by the name of General Oliver Otis Howard. He was a Union Army officer and a general. He lost his arm while leading his men against Confederate forces at the Battle of Fair Oaks, Seven Pines in June of 1862. So this is the guy who founded Howard University. Down here in New Orleans, where I'm at, most people may not know this, but Xavier University of Louisiana is the only historically black college and university that's private and Catholic. And it was founded by a saint, Catherine Drexel. And she was dedicated. She fought for the rights of blacks, minorities, at a time where it wasn't popular. We had some, I guess you want to say good white folks. She did good. She was a philanthropist. Her father was a banker named Francis Drexel, who from Philadelphia, and he gave money. You know, she obviously got a very sizable inheritance. She was an heiress, so she used her monies to advocate for the poor, for blacks, and so forth. And she co-created the Blessed Sacrament order that's here in New Orleans. That was created as an institute for Indians and colored people. Now, but this is the founder of Howard. Now, when we look at Southern University, actually Southern was founded in Baton Rouge, and not in Baton Rouge, it was founded in New Orleans in reality. What happened was that they moved it out to Baton Rouge back in the early 1900s, when they were 1890, when the legislature gave Southern a land grant for blacks in order to continue satisfying federal requirements. So they established an agricultural and mechanical department as well. That's why it's called Southern University A&M. Now, PBS Pinchback, who was the first black governor of any state. He was a Union Army officer. He was a captain. He was governor from December 9th, 1872 to January 13th, 1873. Theophile T. Elaine, that's what we call T.T. Elaine. He was also instrumental in founding Southern University Law Center. He was born a slave in West Baton Rouge Parish, Louisiana. And he worked in politics. And you also had Henry Deemer. So you had black men that helped co-founders. But a lot of the HBCUs, the point being, is that they got grants and were assembled in some way, shape, or form with whites. And Howard University is one of those. So yeah, well, I mean, look, Tyree, when Ulysses S. Grant died, I learned this. It was former slaves that paid for his burial. They paid for his funeral, according to what Brother Ron Hurd said. So that doesn't surprise me that they name stuff after them. They do all types of tributes. They did tributes to Abraham Lincoln after he died. A lot of black people, freed blacks, were devastated over his death. It's just like the creation of Memorial Day. That was black. Freedmen created that for Union officers who died, and they didn't know their names, so they called it Decoration Day. This is Grant's tomb out in New York. Right in Manhattan, New York. So most of these schools are black in name only. And Howard University, you know, the NAACP, it's not just Howard University, but Howard University, the NAACP, the SCLC, a lot of these organizations who are quote unquote supposedly black owned have been silent when it came to what happened with Bill Cosby. I heard that, you know, the SCLC has been having financial issues. They haven't said anything about Bill Cosby. My understanding is that the NAACP got carte blanche to use Bill Cosby's image, his face, everything in order to do, you know, to advance the rights of colored people. They've been silent. So Phylicia Rashad, and this was another thing I read. They actually want Phylicia Rashad to, and I don't know how true it is because I only saw the flash. I thought it was a mistake for her to apologize, but supposedly they're talking about her receiving sensitivity training in regards to what she tweeted. I don't know how true it is. I mean, it might be BS that they're saying it is the shade room. I don't really like promoting this stuff because it's a lot of gossip that they put there. And you had motherfucking people like Kid Cudi that was coming at people that supported Bill Cosby. Motherfucker, you wore a dress on Saturday Night Live, a full-on dress. Shut up. Stop listening to these celebrities. I don't understand. Freedom of speech applies to everyone. Now, of course, when we talk about freedom of speech, yes, that certainly that means that the government can't stop you. So private institutions and so forth, uh, like a Howard, like a Xavier University, they have their own rules and regulations about how things are. But she has a right to her opinion, and what she said is what every lawyer, criminal defense lawyer, would say. I can't find it. I read it. It came across. I came across it. Someone had put it, tweeted, and put it up. If you can find it, but I was disgusted. She had nothing to apologize for, and supposedly, when we say black in name only, let's go back to our brother Tariq Nasheed. He actually has the images up. This is who runs Howard University. The vice president, this is Ring Yu. It's the editor in chief of Howard Magazine. Hassam Yazandi, assistant professor of civil and environmental engineering. The interim chief of information officer Olga Asagi. Wayne Frederick, who was an immigrant. See, and let me say this, and tying that into what we were discussing, since I could have put all this stuff up, but tying it all into what we're discussing, though, too, about the monies that Bill Cosby gave. I truly wish that Dr. Cosby, when he gave that all the monies that he gave, he would have invested it in his own black news channel. Forget trying to buy NBC. If he had invested, and he should, while he's still alive, and if he has money, invest in new black media, because we were the ones that supported Dr. Cosby throughout all of this. We stood by him. We stood by him. And we called out the BS that was there, what they were trying to do and say as to what's happening. Because donating monies to historically black colleges, we see what that gets you. Gets you nowhere. They've been silent. They have not said anything. Not Howard, maybe a couple that said they weren't gonna. There was one I know of, and their name escapes me. They said they were not taking his name and awards down. I wish I knew the name of the group, but a lot of those people, they stood on code. That was just one I can think of. But I wish she would not have apologized for it. if the queen has stayed on code. But you got Fat Joe talking about Bill Cosby, and Fat Joe got domestic violence issues, accused of sexual assault. He should shut up. He should shut his fat ass up. A White Rican. I said White Rican. Like Paul Mooney would say.
When you get 50 young ladies, white, black, Chinese, Spanish, Filipino, rich, poor, to all, they don't know each other and they all say the same story. That's where you get me fucked up at. That's where you get me like,
they don't
and
all
so
say
I
the
can't
same
be cheering
story,
on,
bro.
yo, and I'm always for the underdog. I don't want to say the
They
bad
don't all
guy,
say
but
the
9
same
times out of
story,
10,
bro.
I'm for the bad guy. You talk about a guy who came from bad people. So I'm always cheering on somebody, but I can't be up in here lying to y'all like, I never wish that on him. I don't want him to go to jail. I didn't want none of that to happen to him.
See, these celebrities don't have a damn clue. They don't have a damn clue about what's going on. All they do is just hear 50 women, all these women. And it's got equal likes to dislikes on this video. Y'all look at this. I'm about to wrap it up in a second. But y'all look at this crap. Look at how many likes to dislikes are on Fat Joe's YouTube page. 101 to 101. Y'all are again talking nonsense and you don't even y'all are talking nonsense. Y'all don't even know what the hell happened. What's up, LA Kaiser? No, he don't need a damn platform. You know, I can't. For the life of me, I understand why Miss Rashad, Dr. Rashad, Dean Rashad did that. You know, she got to keep her job. But how it comes off looking foolish because they knew that Mrs. Rashad was always a supporter of Bill Cosby. Always had been. But shout out to Stephanie Mills. Shout out to Phylicia Rashad. Shout out to Camille Cosby. Shout out to, Phylicia Rashad been more on code than her own damn sister. Because even Debbie Allen was talking a little shit about Cosby, and she got her job working with him. I mean, all of these people, don't you find it interesting that all these people are talking bad about Bill Cosby, yet they all worked with him. They all worked under him, got something out of him, kissed his ass. I said nothing. Supposedly, when they saw all of this, I saw Marsha Warfield when Cosby got sentenced talking stuff about Bill Cosby. How she heard rumors when she was on night court and wanted to meet him about not leaving your drinks around. What? Where the fuck were all of y'all? I'm being real. Where were y'all? Just like with Michael Jackson. You knew all of this stuff was going on and said nothing? You had an ability, if it was true, if you knew it was true, you had a better position than anybody to stop it. I'm embarrassed. I'm literally embarrassed by what I've been seeing. We can't stay on code for shit. Janet Hubert, you know, some Z-list actress that they pulled out in Black Enterprise, put an article up with her. You know, Earl Graves would roll in his grave. Earl Graves Sr. would roll in his grave, seeing what that newspaper has become. Who cares if she got a new job working with Gabrielle Union? Oh, she's got a new job. Right after she throws Cosby under the bus, she lands a new gig. Moise Lamont Hill, he gets on BNC and wants to throw shade at Cosby, and we find out what? You guys may not know this, but Moise Lamont Hill actually is a trustee, a professor over at Temple University. That's his employer because he's from Philadelphia. So my understanding, and from what Dr. Boyce Watkins was saying, where he was coming at Bill Cosby, or talking about Cosby, is that there is a personal grudge that Mark Lamont Hill has with Bill Cosby. Something happened. I think Mark Lamont Hill tried to get Mark Lamont Hill was going to get fired, and Bill Cosby wanted him fired, supposedly. But when you're in news media, and he's not really an anchor. He does not have a degree in journalism. But when you're on television, part of doing news is that you're supposed to remain neutral, not slanted. And you came at the wrong one with Judge Joe Brown. And shout out to Professor Black Truth, and most specifically Jason Black on the Black Authority, because he did have Judge Joe on last night, and the other sister, Ms. Shabazz, who's an attorney. Yeah, you kept your mouth shut then, so why now? But shout out to them. But guys, I'm gonna get on out of here. I think we've done enough for the day. I'm gonna enjoy some food. It's the 4th of July. You guys be safe and be blessed. We got 50 people in here. That's a blessing, man. That is an absolute blessing. I'm thank y'all for being in, tuning in with me today. But I ask you again, please donate to the channel. That's the only way we can keep going. This channel is not monetized. YouTube, of course, they mess with my screen from time to time, like they do with a lot of others. So it's best to support us by donating to the Cash Apps. Also, if you want to advertise on this channel, we are open to. We have some advertising deals you can do. You can email me at gavin.grich1@gmail.com for rates. gavin.grich1@gmail.com. We give you rates on that. And let me also introduce our website, Nani's Creole Blends, that we just launched. Nani's is a seasoning company that I created along with my dad. It's a family-owned seasoning blend. I should have brought an example here. I think you've seen samples, but let me just share with you all the website so you can take a look. It's NaniCreoleBlends.com. This is the actual website y'all can take a look at and get ready to order some. I'll have prices on it available shortly because we have to calculate. We have our shipping and calculations that we do, but that'll be up. But try it on chicken, meat, or fish. Nani's goes great with every dish. So if you guys would like that, I'd appreciate it. But in the meantime, family, you be safe, be blessed, enjoy this 4th of July. Enjoy if some of you may not be working tomorrow because they're honoring the holiday since it fell on the weekend. Judge Joe Brown knew his stuff. Yeah, happy birthday. Happy birthday if he is listening to Judge Joe Brown. Happy 21st plus 53 plus an additional 53 years of your birthday. Judge is going to be 74, but he's still sharp, and we still love and appreciate him. We love the wisdom that he drops. Like I say, I don't always agree with the judge, but I always listen to the judge because there's something there you're going to get out of. Like Reverend Jeremiah Wright said about Minister Farrakhan. He said he's F. Scott Fitzgerald. Black people don't agree with the minister on everything, but they will listen to him. So please come back on Tuesday. I don't know who I'll have. Oh, before I go, I did get off the phone earlier today. We're going to be bringing him back on Tom Mesereau, Hurricane Tom Mesereau, fellow attorney who represented Bill Cosby and Michael Jackson. He will be coming back because we're going to be discussing this case. So I got off the phone with him, and he was super excited. And he had an interesting story he told me. I don't know if I should share it, but supposedly when that verdict was read, he had some inside scoop about the judge in the case. And what I'll do is I'm going to ask him if he can talk about it, what happened. But let's just say anybody that was happy about prosecuting that case right now, they are not happy today because or they weren't happy that Thursday because they tried to advance their career off of this conviction, and it backfired grandly in this matter. But anyway, guys, I got to get out of here. You be safe, be blessed. I can't believe it's 5 o'clock right now already. But feel the groove, get on the floor, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to get on up. You guys download that song, buy it on Apple, on Spotify. I will see you all in the next one. I'll holla. Peace.
Girl, come on. Gotta dance to the beat, cause on the dance floor is where we're going. Show me what you got. Gotta feel the groove. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on. Right now the party's wasted. There's nothing much to do. But once the groove gets started, tell me, what do you have to lose? Just look into my eyes, girl, as we glide across the room. And what to my surprise now, the beat takes hold of you. Now if you're feeling like I'm feeling, so come on baby, let's start dealing. Time to get this party started. Ain't no time for the broken hearted. When the rhythm takes hold of you, there's only one thing left to do. Cause the beat is really moving. Time to get your body moving. Gotta get all out and move your body. Cause when the beat is really moving, start to feel your body moving. Gotta get all out and shake something up. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on up. Tell the DJ play the whispers. Rock steady in the mood. Put on earth, wind, and fire. Tonight we're gonna groove. Show me how you do the four corners. Electric slide or two. Hit the bus stop, or do the buddy hop, baby. It's really up to you. Now if you're feeling like I'm feeling, so come on baby, let's start dealing. Time to get this party started. Ain't no time for the broken hearted. When the rhythm takes hold of you, there's only one thing left to do. Cause the beat is really moving. Time to get your body moving. Gotta get all out and move your body. Cause when the beat is really moving, start to feel your body moving. Gotta get all out and shake something up. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on up. Now, 2020 hasn't been the best year of all times. We've been dealing with death, the pandemic, racism, bad policing, and all the bad rhymes. But like Uncle Snoop once said, if you breathe and you're achieving. So if you're ready, I need you all to get on up. Are you ready? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Get your butt on the dance floor. 5 and 6 and 7, 8. This jam we appreciate. We're gonna slide and step on the beat. On the dance floor is where we'll build a groove. Get on the floor. Get on up and move your body. 'Cause when the beat is really grooving, start to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something. Feel the groove. Get on the floor. Get on up. Yeah, gotta get on. Come on, baby, gotta get on. Baby, feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on up.